All right, guys, I am here with the man, Jody Strittmatter. Jody, how you doing today?
Doing awesome. Doing really good.
You know what I noticed? My first take when you called me was you are, I believe it's your home wrestling room. That's where you're at, right?
That's right. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So
my kids upstairs and locked them upstairs just so they didn't come down.
Oh, so my first thought was the opposite. You know, with this coronavirus, I know you have some young kids. I have 3 young kids, and I'm not used to dealing with them 24/7. It is so hard to get anything done. And I thought with you have that home wrestling room. You could just lock them in the wrestling room, go upstairs, and you and your wife can, get real work done.
Yeah. No, actually, for the podcast, I locked them upstairs. But all this week, we were down here, so much, and just have a blast with them. They're 6 and 4 now, so they love it. And it's just, being home all week, just trying to burn some energy and all that stuff. So it's been awesome.
Yeah. Okay, so here's what I told you I'm going to interview you really hard today. So mostly I'm a current event show with RUDIS, right? I call someone, we talk about what happened last weekend. Unfortunately, with the coronavirus, nothing happened last weekend. Nothing's going to happen any weekend for any time recently. So it was more like, okay, who do I want to talk to for a while? And you and I have talked, I've done some camps for you, but we never really went really deep about the development of wrestlers. And it's one of my favorite subjects in the planet to talk about. And I think you guys are doing probably the best job in the United States of America. So I wanted to grill you.
All right. Yeah.
Are you going to tell us all your secrets?
I'll tell you anything I know.
Okay. So for those of you guys who don't know Jody very well yet, he runs, I'm just going to give kind of a brief introduction. You want to correct me at all? He runs a club called Young Guns out of Pennsylvania. They started in 2001, right? 2000?
I graduated 2001, so it's more like 2002,
okay.
2002, 2003 season.
2002, and right now, I believe that in my opinion, number one club in the country. That's who we at AWA are chasing. We got Young Guns. We're trying to run you down. It's many years off in the distance, I believe. And you put out, just this laundry list of outstanding wrestlers: Jason Nolf, Vincenzo Joseph, Spencer Lee, Michael Kemmerer, Luke Pletcher. And so it's like, okay, you're clearly, in my opinion, you guys are clearly doing something different. So that's what I want to talk to you about. Is that fair?
Sure.
Okay. All right. So I want to go way back, and kind of what I was thinking when I was thinking about you is you've had, and I know this is true for myself. You had this awesome amount of coaches that you were modeled by, right? So Tom Pecora, who was at UPJ.
Pat Pecora.
Oh my gosh, Pat. Wow, I blew that. So okay. Do you want to go earlier than him, or is there any really influential coaches you had earlier than Pat, or no?
Yeah, just high school coaches that cared a lot about you.
Okay.
Maybe they didn't know the sport as much, but just, I remember going, to high school practice, and my high school coach taking me to the gym, and then he'd live with me, right after the gym, and then he'd drop me off. He lived right next to me. We'd get up, we'd go for runs and stuff. So, maybe they didn't know as much at the time, but, I guess they really cared and put a lot of time into you. Yeah.
Okay. So then, you go to UPJ, and Pat Pecora is there, and right now he just this year crossed the line for the winningest NCAA Division I or Division II coach ever, or over all divisions.
All wrestling, yeah.
All wrestling. So winningest.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what division.
Okay. So most wins ever. So I guess what was as far as his influence on you, and you still work with him to this day. What was his biggest influence on you as far as developing as a wrestler, and then kind of the things you learned from him that you take on now to your wrestlers?
Yeah, and I think probably the biggest thing that I learned from him is that I think the kids know if you're just trying to help them as a wrestler or finish a single leg, and you don't really care about them as a person, they know that.
Yeah.
So I think that's the biggest thing. Right away, it was he cares about you 24/7. He cares about who you are and who you're becoming. And I think that was really important to me, and maybe probably, again, the biggest thing that I learned from him, that it's not just about finishing a single leg or getting off the bottom. It's who you're becoming in this process.
Yeah. And so John, your brother, he was there first, right?
That's correct. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So go ahead.
Yeah. He went to Penn State for a year and a half. And then he transferred to Pitt-Johnstown, which is only like 20 minutes from my house. Mm-hmm. And I was still in high school, and then, I'd go back and forth to Johnstown to train with him, every chance I could get. But yeah, he went there first.
Yeah. So then, were you heavily recruited out of high school, or did they have to win a recruiting battle, or was it you didn't have as much success and your brother was there, so that's where you went?
Yeah, that's where John was, and I was really, really comfortable there. I was going to camps there whenever I was a kid. I got third my junior year in the high school state tournament. Got first my senior year. Actually had a lot more success, maybe even nationally. I won cadet nationals.
Oh, really?
Then I got second and third in junior nationals.
Wow.
I was kind of having success in freestyle, but Pennsylvania was really, really tough, and it was different. Without all the social media and the outlets we have today.
Yeah.
Different. So I was, like I said, one-time state champ. And I felt like I always wanted to go to Iowa whenever I was growing up.
Uh-huh.
And it was just something about the program and the Brands brothers. And I had a Gable Competitor Supreme video whenever I was and I'd watch it over and over and over. And I thought, hey, this is the perfect place for me. I love Coach Pecora. My brother's there. If I can, maybe go there and keep wrestling and do really, really well, maybe there's still a chance for going to Iowa, which I thought maybe at the other,
So wait, let me ask you. So was Iowa? So I'm assuming they didn't call you because you probably went there right away, right?
Right. Yeah. I wasn't really recruited out of high school. I mean,
so
a couple smaller schools.
No other Division Ones, really?
Yeah, there was. I was looking at Lehigh. Went on visits to Clarion.
Okay.
Obviously, my brother was at Penn State.
Yeah.
So I went on a visit there at the time. He was, whenever I was a junior, he was there. So I went to some other places looking, but I guess not heavily, and just really locally.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, that's interesting because with that national level of success, you'd think there would be more programs beating down your door.
Right. Yeah. And maybe I was a lightweight. I was 103. And then I won a state title at 112. So I was tall and lankier, but I was really thick. So maybe it was the lightweight. I'm not sure, but
yeah. Okay. So we talked about Coach Pecora. So then you're at UPJ for 3 years, correct?
Yeah.
And then you won a national title, and then you decided to. Did you just on your own? I know I've heard Coach Tom Ryan's story about going to Iowa. Was it just you on your own? Hey, I want to go to Iowa, or how did that come about?
Yeah, I talked to Coach Pecora at Christmas time.
Okay.
So I was a sophomore at UPJ, and it was Christmas time, and I went in his office and I said, Coach, I've had nothing but amazing experiences here. After this year, though, I think I really would like to look to transfer. And he said, where do you want to go? And I said, Iowa. And he said, all right. So we went out to Midlands a couple weeks later, and I wrestled at Midlands. And he talked to Coach Zalesky at the time. And I don't know how much Coach Zalesky knew or anything like that, but I went on and I won a Midlands title that year.
You did
at UPJ.
Oh, wow.
And so he said, hey, he came back up to Coach Pecora after the tournament and said, man, I love this kid. He said, let's do this after the season. So we went, and our team, UPJ, won a Division II national title. And then the week after Division I's, then I flew out and went on my visit and just fell in love with it and burbled right away.
Yeah. So
transfer.
I know you. I guess you kind of already brought this up earlier about how Coach Pecora, cared so much about the wrestlers, but. That seems like almost to an extreme that he would willingly go up and talk to another coach and then set up a recruiting visit to get rid of you when you helped him win a national title. You probably can come back and help him win a couple more, and he was so willing to help you do what you wanted to do rather than what was going to help him.
Yeah, that pretty much sums it up, right? That's kind of he is. He's an incredible person, and even recruiting me, he said that whenever he said, hey, I know that you're very special with what you did at Fargo and stuff like that. And he said that, hey, you come here and you ever want to leave, you ever want to aspire, different goals, that he'd be, willing to help me. And he had already coached guys like Carlton Hasselrig, who had won 3 Division I national titles, but the roles have changed then in between. Division II and Division I, they couldn't compete together.
Yeah. Yeah, that's there's caring about people that that definitely explains the actions say a lot when he was willing to go do something like that. Okay, so you go to Iowa. Let's see, that would be summer of '99.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Spring. Yeah. I finished school. I came home for 1 week, and then as soon as I packed up all my stuff, got my truck, and drove out to Iowa City.
So it seems like I mean, you're gonna have to tell me all the personalities, but when we talk about coaching influences on you, Zalesky's the head coach. Brands isn't. I think both Brands are assistant coaches, and I got to imagine Gable's not on the staff, but he's got to still be around quite a bit because he lives in Iowa City, right?
Right. Yeah. So whenever I moved out, it was a spring. So NCAAs had just finished. Hawkeye Wrestling Club was in full force. So Gable was running every practice. The freestyle.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was he would run all the freestyle practices. So whenever I went out there, Gable was coaching every single day on the mat. I didn't know a single person, on the team. I moved out, kind of just started grooming with Matt Anderson, Jessman Smith, and the team just took me in. The coaching staff took me in. Terry Brands was training. So I was, the lightweight on the team. So instantly, me and him all the time, we just, he took me under his wings big time. And, I'd go over to his house for dinner and stuff like that. Yeah, didn't know a single person on the team. So, it was the spring and the summer. So a little bit different than maybe during the, the college years. Mm-hmm. But yeah, he was great with me.
So how many takedowns did you get on Terry that summer?
I don't know. Not a whole lot, I'm guessing.
Okay. So what was special about Gable? If Gable's running every practice, what was special about him? Because I've heard a lot of people talk about Gable, and I've talked to him maybe twice, never really at a very huge length. And this is kind of true with a lot of really great coaches. Is I feel like it doesn't seem like they do anything different than a lot of other people. There's just some nuance or something small that they're tweaking, or that they care about them. Obviously, a huge part of it. Something there that is unique. Can you identify what you think that was, or?
I think I guess it's only what I felt like. Sure. He just had a way of connecting with you. It was like a special connection that again, he cared about you, that he could pick out like, hey, you want to get better? Let's work here. Let's do this. And it was like, man, he's not just putting me through the practice that everybody else is. He sees what I need to get better at. He's willing to, spend time with me. And, and so I was the lightest guy on the team, and he was still live wrestling all the time then. So
Gable was?
Practice, yeah. So we would finish practice.
Okay.
So in 2001, how old was he?
Well, didn't he have his hips done already? I thought you weren't allowed to wrestle after that.
Yeah. Not on our feet. We wouldn't wrestle live on our feet. He'd be like, Strittmatter, get down. And he got to start on top, and I had to get off the bottom. And then if I got on top, I got to go on top and ride, try to turn him and ride him. And so, but we would wrestle live multiple times during the week on the mat.
Really?
And he had just that special connection that he had. He made you feel really, really special.
Huh. Interesting. So were his bars as vaunted as?
Yeah, they're deadly.
They're terrible?
They're deadly, yes. They're so good.
Who's got better bars, Dan Gable or Spencer Lee?
I don't know. That's a good one. That's a great one.
Has he ever barred you?
I'm sure he has. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I figure, it would be one of those things where it's like, the big brother effect. Obviously, you probably got on him. So, maybe since he was never able to get it when he was like a tiny guy, now he still can't get it on you or something.
Well, no, I'm a lot bigger than him, right?
You are?
I'm 160 now. I walk around, so
I would have guessed smaller.
I'm sure, we'd be wrestling, and maybe I'd give him a little bit of something to work with and then it's like, holy crap, I just gave him way too much. Now I am actually in trouble.
Yeah. So. Huh. Okay. So Gable's there. Zalesky's the head coach. You talk about the influence of Terry Brands. Is Tom around at that time, or had he gone somewhere else already? He was still there.
Yep. He was there both years. Actually, Terry was there my junior year, and then he left for an assistant coaching job.
Oh, didn't he go to Nebraska maybe or something?
Yep, he did. So Lincoln McElravy was there, who I got along great with. Both Brands brothers, and then Zalesky.
What was Tom's influence like on you at that point in time?
Terry was a little bit more my junior year.
Okay.
So Terry put me through all my individual lifts, all my individual drilling. I would spend the weekends going out to Terry's farm. He would, just doing little things every day, mental stuff. And he would cut these trees down, and we'd be on this big hill. So he'd cut them down, in these huge blocks, and then he'd roll them down the hill. And he'd be like, there's so-and-so. And that was my competition. I'd have to go down to the bottom of the hill, pick it up, carry it up, and then split it. So I spent a lot of time with Terry on the mat and then off the mat, like I said, that first year. And then he left, and then so Tom then really started to do, me and him put a lot of, time in. He was kind of doing all my individual stuff then.
Okay. And your connection with him was really, really tight also?
Absolutely, yeah. Both super, super positive experiences with both.
Is there something you can identify that's about Tom that's a little different? I mean, you're able to identify that about Pecora and Gable. What about Tom?
Yeah. And he was the assistant coach.
Okay.
So he was maybe he was doing the everyday work. He was still wrestling. And he wasn't far from 96 where he just won the gold. So he was if you got a takedown on Terry, you earned it because he was still competing. Where Tom would let you, and then when he was ready to put the hammer down, when you're getting the full Tom Brands then.
Yeah. Wow, that's awesome. So how about Coach Zalesky? I'm kind of going through all the coaching influences. How was he at that point? He actually just he just hung it up at Oregon State. But he had a great run at Iowa, multiple national titles. He had a really good run at the beginning at Oregon State. And now I think he's probably happily retired.
Yeah. The thing that sticks out most about Coach Zalesky is two things, I guess. Just one, his influence on top. He helped me a lot. Great leg rider, great bars, bar and half. He was really, really good. So technically, he was extremely, extremely knowledgeable. And then just, again, his individual, influence. I still remember, before the NCAA tournaments, I was drilling with him,
Really?
So were all the other coaches, individually and taking care of, different guys and stuff. Whereas Zalesky would, he wasn't afraid to still get on the mat and still scrap. And even though he was a lot bigger than me at the time, just that, again, that selflessness about them, that just doing everything they can to let you know that you're special, that you're ready.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. So you finished the last 2 years at Iowa. Did you start the club right away, or was it, I can't remember the story. I know Eric Juergens and you did something together for a minute. What's the story of the start of Young Guns?
Yeah. So I got my degree in biology, / pre-med.
Okay.
So I really didn't know what I wanted to do with my life at the time. I wasn't sure. So I kept training freestyle. And I think, that following year, so I stayed in Iowa City and trained with the Hawkeye Wrestling Club. So I lived with Eric Juergens, lived with Doug Schwab, and so I spent a little bit over a year out there. Went to the U.S. Open and got second.
Okay.
Got third to World Team Trials. And then it was the following, fall, Eric, he was my roommate. He was like, Jody, he's like, this opportunity to start a club. And at first I was like, no, I don't want to. I want to stay here. I want to, go back to school. And then I don't know what it was. He's great at, we were super, super close. We still are to this day. And he kept bringing it up. And I'm like, at the time my knees were really hurting. The weight class was 121.
Oof. So
I was like, man, maybe it is time. Let's. So I was like, let's do this for a little bit. And I never didn't want to go back to school after I started coaching. I loved it. And we moved up to Michigan, and we were there probably maybe 9-10 months, something like that.
Okay.
And absolutely loved doing it. Cam Simez was in that group, that first group that we had. Oh, we had some really good kids. Yeah, really, really good kids.
Wait, so did they hire you? Did someone up there hired you guys to come up there? Is that what I'm saying?
Basically, they said, hey, here is a local karate studio. We think that we can get 30 kids for their first practice. Okay. And I think there was 12 when we showed up. So we got out there, but it built fast. And, by the time we left, there was maybe not quite 100 kids, maybe something like that, that were coming during the week. This is 17 years ago. So it started slow, and then it really started picking up speed. And one night I went to Eric and I said, hey, I love doing this. I was like, but we can do this different places. I can do this in Pennsylvania, where my family's from. So he's like, well, if you're not staying, I'm not staying. So actually he moved to Pennsylvania then, and we started it here together.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was here probably almost a year.
Okay.
And then kind of the same situation. He's like, you know what? He had a nephew and niece at the time, and he was from Iowa. He's like, I'm going to move back to Iowa and do it back there, So that's why we have the different, he runs the one back in Iowa and Illinois, and then we have the one in Pennsylvania then. Yeah.
So what was John doing at the time then?
John he was coaching high school in Iowa. So whenever I went to Iowa, he's finished up at UPJ and then went to Iowa and got his finished up his teaching degree.
Okay.
Um, he was coaching out there. I went to Michigan, then I came back. Then he came back to Pennsylvania. And he started coaching high school.
Okay.
And he did that maybe 3 years or so. And then he decided then to start helping at Young Guns instead.
Got it. Does Eric still run the club in Iowa?
He does, yeah, absolutely.
And that's out of the
Quad
City?
It's actually right on the Illinois-Iowa border. So it's on the Illinois side.
Okay.
He gets a lot of kids from both sides of the
Is that Quad Cities or is that?
Yep, that's right, Quad Cities. Yeah.
Got it. Okay, cool. So 2002, you start Young Guns. Obviously, we're not going to be able to go through the whole history of every kid and all that stuff. But let's talk about just kind of development, main focus points for you. And then let's talk about some of the special kids that you've dealt with, because, I've got to interact with some of them. And, I think what's fascinating about, your club is that, a lot of people say, well, Pennsylvania has a lot of good guys and, they have a club that's in a really good area. But what I think is really important about what you guys done is you've had multiple guys that have reached like transcendent levels. Like Jason Nolf is an all-timer. Spencer Lee is an all-timer. And you have a bunch of these guys who have got to that level. And I think there's got to be something in the secret sauce that you guys got cooking. Is that fair?
Oh, yeah. No, I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, so as far as you open your club, I know when we opened our club, we had, these are going to be the kind of things that are going to be our keystones that we're going to try to navigate the way by. What was do you remember your ideas back? I mean, have they stayed the same? Have they changed? Do you remember what your ideas were? Like, we're going to do this, this, and this. That's different than from what most people do. Do you have anything like that?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think that it's like, because club is a little bit different. You don't know who has a dual meet tonight, who had, in different times. So it's not like maybe a college coach or even a high school coach. You have these 25 kids every single night.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So it's a little bit different. But I guess truly is you're going into practice to try to, maybe do two things. One, influence them on the mat, and then influence them. And I think that's what I try to do the most is, hey, at practices from 6:30 to 8, at 8:30 when they leave, that they think differently, that they're out there and they're thinking differently when they're at home and then at 5 o'clock the next morning and, while they're at school, that it's not just that hour and a half. Yeah. And I think that's truly whenever you get a kid who like Spencer Lee that believes in you like that.
Yeah.
And it gets really special. And it's not just Young Guns and it's just not the kid. It's the network, that have a lot of things go right, the support system and everything. So I don't know. I think it's just truly was like, hey, let's help these, and I think that there's a lot of coaches that do that.
Yeah. Then
there's a lot of coaches maybe that do it for, different reasons than just to help the kid.
So when you're saying think differently, are there certain like characteristics that you want kids to, that you want influence kids to live by? Or is it like, you said with Gable, I think it's interesting because you said he was able to identify what each kid needed, right? And I think that's especially important as a club coach because, like you said, you're not their high school coach. You don't get to be with them every day. But you're also not their parent. And a parent instills a lot of values in kids. And so maybe one kid is extra stubborn. And stubbornness can be really good, but it can also be really bad. So all these characteristics can be both good and bad. So I think, it's important as a club coach to be able to identify and then kind of mix the right ingredients in each person.
Right. No, I agree 100%. And I think that if you look at that, you mentioned a couple kids, maybe even just say Jason Nolf and Spencer Lee, they don't really wrestle technically. They don't wrestle similar.
Not at all.
But in their own special way, they become special because of their mind more than their single leg or a fireman's carry or a bar arm.
Yeah.
So I think that if you and once you get it going, I think that it helps. Right? It's not like we don't have to show up at practice, but once you get it going and kids want to be like Spencer Lee, they want to be like Jason Nolf, and they see those guys who come back. Michael Kemmer comes back and teaches a session. Yeah. My 4-year-old, he calls himself Little Chem Dog. I think that once you get that, man, it gets special.
Sure.
you want to be like those kids, and you start telling stories. And I think that's pretty cool. Like, again, it's not just the hour and a half of practice. It's developing relationships with kids that, hey, you talk to them off the mat, and you're going on trips with them to Super 32 and Fargo and camps, and spending an hour and a half session at camp with them, and then spending an hour during the break where, kids are all just huddled up and they're telling stories about, what Spencer Lee was like, what was Vincenzo Joseph like, and it's pretty cool to, let the kids hear the stories and kind of start dreaming and visualizing what they want to be like.
Nice. Yeah. Who was the first one of those for you? Because obviously we're bringing up really modern examples, but you guys started in 2002. Who was your first one of those guys? I don't know. Have you ever read? I have my bookshelf behind. I think it's the Talent Code. Have you ever heard of the HSE?
I haven't, no.
The Holy Shit Effect. I try not to swear on this podcast, but I'm, okay. So it's called. So we'll say I'm going to ask you because I kind of know who it is for our club. And there's a couple different levels of it, right? So the Holy Shit Effect means. And so if you haven't read the Talent Code, I recommend it because they go through all these, like, they could probably interview you, and you guys are a talent hotspot. So a spot that is producing a high level of talent in abundance. So they call it the whole, they said with Andrew Jones, you know who that was? He was a baseball player.
Yep.
Oh my God. It's on the island of Curacao. So for example, they studied Curacao and they studied.
Yeah, I've listened to parts of it. I've listened to I've listened to chapters of it. I just never, not from start to finish, and I haven't. Yeah. I didn't know what you were talking about there for a second.
Yeah, no, it's all, so they say with Andrew Jones, he wasn't like the best guy in the island, right? And then he's, was just a normal dude, and everyone's playing around with him. And then all of a sudden, he gets drafted by the Braves, like really early on in the draft. And then, everyone thinks like, holy shit, I can be like him. Like that guy was anyone special. I can do that. I feel like we've had a couple of those kids come through AWA, and obviously, none of our guys have achieved nearly the levels that your guys have. But was there a first one of those guys that everyone said, "Oh my goodness, I could be like"?
Yeah, I would think early on maybe AJ Shaw with his top. That he was so good on top, and he was one of the. And again, that's how the club kind of works: is they have to believe what you do, right? Like a parent and a kid has to say, you know what, I want to go to Young Guns. They're doing something right, So whether they went somewhere else or whether they're just maybe outgrown their local practices, and he was one of maybe the early guys to say, man, I want to go to Young Guns, and and then once you get one of those guys, and other guys want to train with those guys, and it builds a little bit. But I would think in Pennsylvania maybe AJ was one of those guys. Nico Megaludis, early, when we went to Franklin. So our first location was in Evansburg, and that's where I live. And now it's spread to different sites and different things. But
you guys just opened one in West Virginia, correct?
We did. Yep.
Nice. Okay, so let's talk about Spencer and Jason for a second. If are you okay with that?
Sure.
I know you probably hate picking out just a couple kids from your club, but obviously, I know them a little bit, and then everyone else nationwide kind of knows them. So let's go Jason first. So I guess what I've heard out of people is that Jason wasn't nearly the best guy in the room growing up. He was kind of like middle of the road, and then as he got older, he started starting achieving at higher levels. What was your memory of that? And then is there a key point where you said, and maybe it was before everybody else, where you said, oh my goodness, this guy's going to be freaking unreal?
Yeah. Well, with Jason, he didn't start coming to Young Guns till maybe 8th grade.
Okay.
So I didn't know him really before that.
Oh, okay.
So whenever he started coming, he lost in junior high multiple times. I remember, but the thing that sticks out about Jason is that even as he got older, he was not afraid to try new things. Like in the practice room, he would get killed.
Yeah.
Because he was always constantly trying new things. And I forget the 1 year he was going to Super 32, and I looked over to one of the dads, and I'm like, has he scored a single point this practice? And he shook his head, no. I've seen him get pinned like 5 times. And I'm like, Super 32's next week. Like, I can't believe it. I thought he was better than this. And then he goes to Super 32 and just blitzes everybody. But that's just how he was at practice. He wasn't concerned with winning.
Yeah.
I know what coaches say it a lot and kids say it a lot, but to truly do it is much different.
Yeah.
'Cause everybody wants to win. We all want to win. Doesn't matter what we're doing. And he was not afraid to, continue to put himself in new situations and keep learning, even if it meant, not winning that position that day.
Yeah, that's a huge one. I always I push that one, but to your point, it's much easier to say than it is to do because people get their emotions wrapped up in it. And I guess that was something I was doing quite a bit of as I was starting to achieve stuff because I was developing moves. It's obviously you suck at them when you first start, but when you try to tell that to a middle school kid, and then the kid that they usually beat 10-0, starts beating them, and they're like, okay, I'm done with this trying new move stuff.
Yeah, that's right. Well, especially whenever their dad's, looking over there, in the window, and it's like they wanna teach dad. And Jason was never like that. Again, his dad would get so upset with him. He's like, Dad,
really?
I'm trying to learn. I'm trying to learn. Well, yeah, you watching your kid, you know how good he is, right?
Well, but
butt kick like crazy at practice. You're like,
yeah,
I'm paying money for that,
Well,
it was so special that way.
Wow, I guess I didn't know Jason Nolf's dad, and like I said, I didn't know the whole story. So when someone, I guess I've kind of heard before that he got his butt kicked in practice, but when someone tells me that, I figure. Actually, I was just reading. They did this for Mental Monday. I'm reading the Rafael Nadal book, and I used one of the quotes from Mental Monday. But to I believe his uncle or his cousin was his coach, and he said his dad supported him, but was kind of disconnected. I hope you try hard. I want you to be good, but I love you no matter what. I'm kind of out.
Oh, no.
So no, that's what I figured Jason's dad was like.
I don't know who told you that one.
No, I said that's what I would have assumed. No, that's what I would have assumed.
No, his dad was very intense and very tough on him. And again, they're super close. They're still super close, but his dad was very tough on him. Well, so that's what I'm saying. It would be hard for any kid that their dad, is watching them practice. And back then, this was the early years of Young Guns, and we didn't have, rooms weren't packed and stuff, and the dads would line up inside the wrestling room on the wall. So the dads would be all in the wrestling room watching.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, and going back to what has Young Guns done, and it's pretty cool that I was a coach and I was still, I was learning from a ninth grader, and before I wasn't that way, I would, hey, if you can beat your guy 2,000-0 today, 2,000-0.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool, that mentality, that he's even taught, us and now the kids that are wrestling now.
Yeah. No, you definitely learn from your athletes. I can't tell you how many times I told Keegan O'Toole a couple of the moves he was doing were wrong, and he just didn't listen to me. And then I said, okay, maybe you got something there. That's pretty good.
Absolutely.
Still learning. Yeah. I think that means that's like an extra level of emotional maturity that Jason was able to kind of deflect his dad and say, hey, Dad, I'm on to something here. Kind of leave me alone, and I'm going to figure this thing out. That's like another level of emotional maturity.
Absolutely,
That's impressive. Okay, how about Spencer? Well, what made Spencer? And I think, what I feel like, and I don't know if you should have sent him, I feel like he's still even coming into his own, and he's maybe even better than we've seen before, which is kind of scary in a little bit of ways. But I feel like he's kind of still growing into himself, and he's going to get even better from the time.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And maybe it's just because I've seen him so many hours of practice, and you see what kind of special things he can do. And then you're only on the mat for 7 minutes if someone lasts the whole match with him, and that doesn't happen very often. Yeah. So you just get bits and pieces of it. But yeah, I agree. He was much, much different. And again, coaching different individuals. If he got taken down one time at practice, he was so furious. I suck. I'm horrible, and it was, I never had to get hard on him because it was always, you had to build him back up. Like, Spencer, you had an incredible practice. But he was much, much different. If you scored on him, it wasn't him trying a new position. I know that.
Yeah, that is pretty funny. Huh? I always say those. I talk about that personality type. I was just talking to someone about this last week, but that really super type A, take everything serious. You and you just said it there. That you got to almost talk them off a ledge really frequently, and assure them and help them through it. Because if you went the other way on him, he would he'd jump off the cliff.
Yeah. The joke was always whenever he was young, I'd get a call from his dad and be like, his dad would be like, Jody, what happened in practice today? And I'm like, nothing. What do you mean? He's like, Spencer's furious. He is so down. And I'm like, he had an amazing practice. He gave up like one gut wrench all practice. And his dad would start laughing and shake his head, like, man, I can't believe him.
Huh.
It was so funny.
Yeah, isn't that funny how people can achieve success in such different levels, in different manners, in different ways?
Yeah, and I think that's why, again, that's what's so cool, and that's what the club has taught me. Again, hey, if it was everybody could coach, if it was just, hey, you teach them a double leg and an arm bar, but things work for different kids and things click for different body styles, and so you just kind of what they want to do and then help them, kind of where their interest is.
Okay. All right. Last guy. And he seems like, so when we talk about what Spencer was like and how, I don't know if the word is uptight, but, got worried about every single point he gave up. Vincenzo Joseph seems like the exact opposite. Is that, can we say that? Is that fair?
Well, again, yeah, I think that they grow, right?
Sure.
What I knew them as, again, Jason Nolf was very, very, what do you say, focused and driven.
Yeah.
And now that they went to Penn State, they play dodgeball and stuff and different, before practice and they talk about fun and the kids, it's hilarious. Kids will ask Jason, how much weight do you cut? And he'd be like, I don't cut weight, but I knew him in high school whenever he had to do everything right. Come to practice with his eyes sunken in. So I think and same with Vincenzo, you see them dancing before the match and stuff like that. And they're super relaxed and loose. I didn't know them like that.
Really?
They were very, not that they didn't like to have fun.
Yeah.
As they grew up and started having more success and then got to Penn State and got around, guys that were like that, and they do have fun, and I think there's a lot to be said for that, and how loose they are when they compete. But I wouldn't say that they were necessarily like that whenever they were in high school.
Interesting. Okay, cool. Any other secrets you want to give us?
No, I don't think we do. Like you said, I don't think we do things a whole lot different than a lot of other clubs and coaches out there. But
you want to hear something funny that I'm going to tie to you because I've been so bored about my house. I've been doing all these effing mental Mondays like every single day. So here's a good one, and now you're gonna have to think deeply about this. Then I'm gonna re-interview you in like a year,
okay.
And. So in 2006 we were going to write this book. I did write it. It's just not very good. And one of the questions was, when did you go from good to great? And we sent this to every NCAA champion the past 50 years. Okay. So we got, obviously people win more than 1 year. So I think it was something like 300 people. We got like 130 back. So a decent chunk. And one of the most fascinating things that I learned was, we were looking for like, I got this coach, or I got a new training partner, or I won this match, or there's some reason where something clicked and they went to the next level, okay? But what we got back was all these people said, and this was probably the question that was answered the most similarly, some version of, I'm not great. And it could have been like, hey, Gable was great, I never achieved greatness, but this year I did this, or your question assumes that I achieved greatness. And, so there's all of these people saying, I'm not great. And so at that point, I'd won an NCAA title. I'm like, okay, well, I guess I never thought about this. I never thought about this either. And so, what I took away from that was all of these people, they weren't considering on those terms. And so when I hear you talk about this, because if I want to quantify clubs, you guys are probably number one. If not very, very close. And so you guys are great, right? Because greatness, there has to be some metric to it. And so I think one of the most important parts is that you, and I'm hearing you say this, you're not even thinking about it.
Right, yeah.
Right? You're just thinking about getting every kid better every single day. And so you never really thought about yourself in those terms. And that's probably why you guys are continuing to have the amount of success. But it's like, wow, when you guys are in it, I'm looking from an outsider's perspective saying, oh my God, They're so freaking good. Like, I want to be that good someday, but it's going to be really, 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 really hard.
Yeah. I agree. I think that's that attitude that you're always grateful, but you're never satisfied. There's always something more. There's always, and again, I guess individually, maybe it's different, but for us, it's like, man, Jason Nolf, he was amazing. Okay. Like, bye-bye, you're going to Penn State. Spencer Lee, bye-bye, you're going to Iowa. Josh Shields, bye-bye, you're going to Arizona State. Like, and now there's another kid, it's like, it's the next kids that grow up. So I think as a club, it's just like, all right, how do we help this next kid? How do we help this next kid, become great? It becomes about them, not you. So a little bit different, maybe, I think, but I do think there's some similarities with the never satisfied. You're always trying to be better as a club, as an individual, even as a person. So
for sure. Okay. You have anything else you want to tell us?
No, stay safe.
Stay safe.
This is crazy. Hopefully we're back at practice soon. I don't think it's going to be real soon, but
how crazy will you go? Say we go 6 weeks, no practice. Will you go totally crazy?
Yeah, probably. Well, I do have this wrestling room, so this is nice. So
there you go.
We spent a lot of time right here.
There we go. Yeah. Oh, nice.
My kids are 6 and 4, and we spent, like I said, 2 hours a day gym class down here. So
nice. That's awesome.
They love climbing ropes, love messing around. So
yeah. Well, I appreciate the time on the interview. That was a lot of fun. I would say see you at the next wrestling tournament, but at this point, I just don't know when that's going to be.
When is that going to be? Is Fargo going to happen?
I got to assume. I think, okay, I'm not a doctor. I'm not an epidemiologist. I'm not an expert. I will just tell you, I feel like people are going to start pushing back in the next couple weeks because everything's shutting down and people being quarantined and crushing the economy is almost as bad as people getting sick. So I feel like there's going to be a pushback in maybe like 2 more weeks or so. And we'll get some part of the economy / businesses kind of restarted. So we'll see. I don't know.
It's not looking good.
Damn it.
We'll see.
All right. I appreciate the time, and I'll see you when I see you.
All right. Sounds great.
All right,
Thanks.
Peace. You got it.